Hello, and welcome to another episode of Product and Cake. We are super happy that you tuned in again. And here with me in the virtual recording studio is Ghonche. How are you today?
Hello, hello. I'm really good. And I have a question for you, Paul. Have you tried Gemini?
Ooh, I didn't, but I saw a lot of nice videos so far. And I just recently saw a research project with Gemini that is able to get a list of sources and then generates a podcast out of it.
Oh,
And
wow.
you can interrupt the podcast to bring in your specific questions or thoughts on the topic.
That's
I
pretty
was
cool.
thinking, like, damn it, that was exactly my idea. I love it. It is so fantastic. Um,
That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
Impressed. What about you, Goncha?
I have tried it, but I don't know if it was the current limitation that is on it that I was not able to recreate what was advertised. But it felt to me that it is similar. I don't know if you remember or not, but years ago, their first or second version of Google Assistant was also pretty smart. It had connections to all of your Google accounts and could combine things together and give you a better answer than what I get today from Google Assistant. So to me, it felt really like that time. So it's like 10 years ago's very basic Google Assistant responses. And in comparison to GPT and GPT 4.0, that is also publicly accessible and for free accessible now, um, I think it was really, really lacking. And the only magic or the only cool part of it, from my perspective, or at least for me, was the fact that it is Google and knows you to the T, like knows every single detail of my life, has
Yeah.
memorized every single email of mine. So that was the only reason that I thought the magic was shown for me. But I think if the data that Google has of me was behind the ChatGPT model, would have been much, much better results.
Yeah, that is interesting. So the data topic at all is the one driving factor for all these large language models at the moment because they
Yeah.
read out the internet completely and they are scarving now for new data. And I think that is also the reason why all of them go to multimodality and they all want
Mhm.
to capture your screen at all time because they don't need to ask for any API access, right? Because Google and Microsoft, they would really fight to not provide all the personal content to someone else. But if they are able to just record your screen, then there's no permission needed. But I have another super nice thing I'm a fan of at the moment. If you have two smartphones and you open ChatGPT and go into this conversation mode, then they start to talk to each other, and that is so funny. You can throw in some keywords and then they are going into this rhythm of listening and asking, and yeah, that's
I saw a video on TikTok on that. It was really, really funny.
yeah, I tried it on my own yesterday and it is really
That's
working
pretty
and
cool.
super funny. The
I will
best
try.
way to waste a lot of energy into water without getting any result. But
Yeah, it is a little bit not environmental friendly, I would say. But
no, but we need to discover these new possibilities, right? I think that will change very soon. And as soon as you have to pay money for each request, then you need to think twice if you want to do it like that. What you also need to think about when you look at these huge AI models, right? And all these big players and Microsoft with more or less infinite money, all the other tech giants. And then you see on the same time an opportunity, right, for a niche
Mhm.
product, something that is maybe not thought through or is a new approach to something. Does it make sense at all to think about it? Do you have any? Uh,
Well, to be honest, it always makes sense to think about it at least. And so, in general, I would say currently the big players in the market are oftentimes missing the point on some topics and some niche target groups. So, yes, true, they might have billions of users, but there is going to be still that niche user that wants a different product. So, even though the market is very well saturated, even though uh, the players in the market have very established feet, I would say, yeah, it is always worth it. But we have also seen a lot of changes in the market in the past, and how a very big brand was after some years swallowed with a more innovative idea. This is like, I think one of the biggest examples would be Sony Ericsson, Nokia phones, and how Apple basically holds the whole market by now.
Totally classical example, but nowadays when I'm thinking of a new startup idea and on the same time I see what Gemini is possible to do. For example, this podcast idea, right? It was some research
Mm.
paper, something they presented it. It was quite cool. And I'm thinking about that for quite a while already. That would be so nice to have that kind of functionality. What should be my force or my thinking in starting something, right? Is it worth it, or will AI and Google wipe us away completely, us in the favor of small startup teams?
Um, that's a very broad question, to be honest. And I think, besides someone from product side to answer, like someone like me that has mainly product knowledge, we need someone to analyze the market, someone to know the finances behind it, etc., etc. So it is a it is a quite broad question that I can answer. Um, that I cannot answer right now. But again, from my perspective, I would say what I've seen in smaller companies versus big companies, the benefit that the bigger company has is definitely their resources. Either they have enough funding to get the literal best minds in the market to work for them to build those technologies, or they have resources to buy, acquire, invest in new technologies for the research and development of those. But at the same time, smaller companies have more agility, are less under microscope in terms of the quality standards in the market. They are less prone to get a fine because they missed a couple of regulations to follow. But this is not the case for bigger companies. They are very under microscope. At any turn, people can, or any competitor can, a lawsuit will come their way, etc., etc. So this is a very quick way of, and from my perspective, way of answering it, that yes, there is always room for dipping your toes into a new idea. And similar to a lot of processes of product development, I would suggest that to start with a niche. But what
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that, Paul?
Yeah, um, I totally agree. And I would like to add two more factors. One is the forces of perseverance in big companies,
Mhm.
right? There are working, as soon as you have a few hundred people, the human nature of preserve everything as it is becomes so strong, and then you have
Yeah.
always some quick thinking innovative people who bounce into that company for a while and then jump out again because they say, okay, this is just not possible because of multiple reasons, and one of them, some of them you mentioned already, the innovation speed is not possible there. This is one thing. And from the technical side, you should also never underestimate the technical depth every big
Mhm.
corporate carries with them, right? You say, hey, spin up a new machine and let us run a new landing page and throw it out to a few hundred people. That could easily go into a 6 months process because you need to get
Yeah.
the budget. You need to get approval from legal, from DevOps, from security, from data protection, a lot of things. And then you maybe are not even allowed to run anything in the name of the company. So be innovative fast and make advantage of this agile approach. And then I really love what you just said. Focus on a niche, right? The
Yeah.
big corporates, they do something for everyone, but for a concrete niche, this is the starting point where something big can start to work.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Everything that we see that right now is quite big always started with a niche, has started with a singular problem to solve, and then it expanded, it grew after solving that problem or after gaining enough market share for that specific need for most of that users. They expanded either to more users, to more countries, to different problems, or different aspects in the same industry.
Yeah. And I think another common mistake is to compare yourself with them, right?
Mhm.
If you are a small company or just a startup team and you have now 3, 4, 5 engaged, motivated people, and then you sit there, look at your product, and then you said, Naya, but Google is also serving all user types and all kind of user groups everywhere worldwide. We need to have now a global scalable
Yeah,
cloud infrastructure that is also able to handle that traffic. And basically, you can click that together and buy it for a few bucks, but makes absolutely no sense because you don't have the reach and you need to prove that you can reach at least your niche. That is difficult enough, and most likely one EC2 instance on AWS is enough, or even a Heroku Dyno for €7 a month is more than enough to get your hands
start with.
dirty.
Yeah, 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 that's true. And also, being frugal is one of the main benefits, or for being more successful, because it is a lot of times that it that limitation will let you to look at the problem from different angles. But if you have the resources and the available money in the company to always try the same door, and if that door is closed, you just throw money at it and the door will open. You will not try to look through a window or find another door or build another door. You just continue to go through the same patterns.
Yes,
And yeah, go on.
I don't have anything. I would need to grab something so Danius. What do you want to
Yeah,
add?
I wanted to go through also some of the examples. So first of all, one of my favorite podcasts, beside this one, obviously,
Ours.
beside Product and Cake, that please share it with everyone that you know. One of my favorite podcasts is How I Built This,
Oh, nice one.
with
Yes.
Guy Raz, and it's so fascinating. Each episode that I listen to, I realize how resilient the founders or the builders were, and how they were not afraid of pivoting. The idea failed, the topic failed, they pivoted, they tried it differently, they pivoted, they tried it differently. And that agility of being pivot so drastically is also not existing in a bigger companies. You cannot shut down the whole thing, or even when you need to shut down a very tiny portion of your website or of your app. When you're a big company, you realize how many users you get through that. 1% of all whole user base goes through that page. It's not going to be 1 or 2 users, it's going to be thousands and thousands users on a daily basis that use that specific page or tiny button. And it makes you rigid, it makes you more conservative to change. And yeah, I think that's also another benefit that trying new small would have.
Yeah. And I want to make again my point to not compare yourself with the successful startups, right? It is super
Yeah.
beneficial to listen to that podcast and to read across stories if you are in the right mood. If
Yeah.
you feel bad and like you will lose everything and you are super frustrated, then it is not the right time to listen to successful stories. I would, at least for me, I mean, everyone is different, but for me, that is not the right time, because if you look back, then you have this possibility to post plausibilize your strategy, right? You will clearly explain in your next interview, hey, that was this pivot, that was that one. Then we know that this and that happened, so we decided for this one. But in the situation, if you are the one who's sitting in front of your project management tool and everyone is asking you questions and everything goes in the same in different directions at the same time, then it is super, super hard. But you can always trust that
Yeah, that's true.
that you can always trust that you will find a super compelling story afterwards to explain your decisions. And that should bring you to the point to just take a decision, because nothing is worse than stucking in that frustration of everything is possible but also nothing at the same time.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
this is where you need to navigate through.
That's true. I think, Paul, we also have some examples of smaller, newer companies that are starting in the field that it is quite known to be very well saturated, very well overbooked, and
Yes.
unintended. Soon we will see why.
Yeah.
um, but they started and they continue their work, and they have started for with a niche.
Yeah. Starting with a niche, and most importantly, just start, even
Mhm.
though there are plenty of same ideas evolving at the same time, right? At the moment, the internet is really everywhere. So every idea is also there multiple times. But starting and focus on your niche gives you the best chances.
Exactly.
So, what is this overcrowded niche you were talking about? Where
Overbooked niche
overbooked?
of we have a lot of booking platforms for holidays such as Airbnb, booking.com, or even couchsurfing,
Or
and there
Google
are
Maps
recently.
nowadays?
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of big players in the market, and the market is quite already saturated. And I think even some years ago, before Airbnb was quite big, I think the founders also heard the same thing, that oh, no one wants to stay at a random person's place, and there's already Booking.com. Who are you? But they started, and now they're one of the biggest in the market, if not the biggest. Um, but also they are so big right now that they forgot some of the human touch points that we've had when we were booking an Airbnb. You could maybe meet the owner. The home was actually feeling like home. Right now it feels more like an IKEA catalog, and all of them looks the same, generic photos on the wall, etc., etc. And a company, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, Komu, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
yeah, has started similar thing, and it is not couch surfing, and it is not booking a hotel, but something in between, but with a connection of someone that you know, not directly you know, but someone that you have a connection, or you are through a connection, you know that person. So um, yeah, I think, Paul, you might know a little bit more about them, right?
Yeah, I installed the app already,
Ah, nice.
because I really like the initial idea to put the social graph into booking, right? I think
Mhm.
that was maybe also a similar idea at Airbnb in the beginning, but um, there's the big question if you can scale that infinitely, um, but also the question if you have to, right? But the key point is you need to have somehow a connection through a friend or a friend of a friend to find a place to stay. And that should give you more true experiences, but should give you also the security that not, yeah, if someone waste your home basically, then you have a direct connection and you could ask your friend, hey, what the hell was going on with your friend? So the social pressure is maybe much higher.
Yeah.
on that one. And the social pressure. And the other thing is that I would imagine that you don't have this list of hosts that use that as an income, right? As
Mhm.
a main income source, and more like, yeah, making use of unused space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not necessarily making new landlords, and also it's not always with an exchange of money. But it is the between the two parties, the one that has a place to offer and the one that is looking for a place. They can decide between themselves if they want to pay, if it is for free, or if it is for, I don't know, chores like help me with the dishes and you can stay on my couch or something like that. That is completely between the two people that are going to discuss, two or more. So it can be a family going with another family.
Yeah. And how would you tackle that? Because when I'm looking for a vacation for my family, there is now a very detailed set of routine on
Mhm.
my way on how to search and my 2 or 3 portals I'm checking. So, do you have any spontaneous product ideas on how to find that niche or how to get that started? Because in the end, we are talking about a marketplace where you need to have someone who's offering their flats and rooms, someone else who needs to create any demand on that. And if you don't have both at the same time, one or the other group will be disappointed, turn away, and never come back.
Yeah, that's true. Hmm. To be honest, since I don't have kids, I haven't faced that problem, so I haven't given it that much thought. But on platforms or marketplaces, when there are more than one party or you have more than one user group, um, in the beginning sometimes the platform also tries to level the playing field, so tries to, if there is more demand and there is less places, they will actively try to go and look for places that matches the demand, or if it's otherwise there are more uh, offers available than the demand, they try to create more demand, they try to ask their family to just stay for one night or something similar, just to keep the ball rolling until it starts to catch on, until all the gears have connected and the whole machine is working. But in this case, I don't know. And also, again, it goes to the topic of niches that we were discussing. If it is not the niche that the early stage company is focusing on, they don't necessarily need to solve that problem at the early stages. They can come back to it when they have the basis set. So maybe they can, I don't know what's their thought or which target group they're starting with, but maybe it is just the students at the moment. We can maybe discuss this with the people who are working at this company there, or have a role in this company, and ask them what is in their mind. uh, but in my perspective, maybe right now, maybe it is, for example, for students, and they don't probably have the topic of kids in their mind, or it's not a big family, it's a one kid maybe.
Yeah, yeah. That is definitely the topic of the target group. Makes a lot of sense. Um, now I lost my thought, but I agree. I now it's back. Because our whole our whole um way of making business. Hell, what is the English word for it? Business. Okay. Anyway, our business system in general, right? It is dependent on growth, right?
Yeah.
So there, as soon as you focus on one niche, smart business angels will step by and say, "Hey, but this niche is not
Mm.
scalable. You cannot grow that." Blah blah blah. Um, but two questions. One is, how should you target all niches at the same time? That is literally impossible. And the other question, much, much more important, and I see more and more companies doing it differently. Do you need to found a business that is growing endlessly? right? Do you want to
Mhm.
become the next Airbnb, or do you want to become the perfect assistant for staying and making new experiences for students or for families or whatever, or for, yeah, however you want to define your niche, right? And you could define success also with I get a good income. I don't need to worry anymore. I have a small team that is super, super dedicated, super smart, also gets good incomes with it. And then endless growth is not the main priority of the company. And yeah, I really like the idea. And there are some good companies doing it in that direction.
Yeah, that is true, and I agree. I think it is dependent from the beginning, from setting the first couple of stones as well, on how they want to shape the company. Because if you start by taking a huge investment from a VC, you have stepped your foot into a very capitalistic environment already. And the goal is
Yeah.
going to be for the VC to increase value, either IPO or sell it to another company. And then with that, you need to always run for growth. But if you, or some VCs, there might be also some VCs that are not like this, or you might get to a wing of a VC that is doing social impact investment and is not necessarily looking for profit in that specific wing of investment. But it is, it's a lot of different ifs and which turns you need to take. Um, but I think as long as you have a set path in your mind and your investors or your founders are aligned with that, I think it is between them.
Yeah. So a lot of questions where we need to maybe really talk to one or the other founder to
Yeah,
get some insights and to share some light on these decisions, right? And on the thought
exactly.
process, because yeah, in the end, everything is connected, and you should formulate a strong vision and a stable strategy to give everyone in your team room to investigate and to innovate in this area where why you are hired them. Oh hell, that was a long list of topics we could also discuss now. But let us see who can join us to bring another perspective into that. So if you listen to it and you enjoyed the thought process, then go and check out gokomu.com and subscribe to this podcast and share it with all your friends, because there are some cool new episodes
Friends,
coming.
family, colleague,
Investors,
CEO of your company. Share it with everyone who might like this podcast. And also write a review for us on Apple Podcast and give us maybe a 5 star if you like to on Spotify.
thank you a lot and have a nice and innovative day. Bye.
Bye.